Hi, viewers, listeners, watchers. Welcome back to the Elevated Duty Podcast. Sergeant Norcross here. Very happy to be here with
Sergeant Rivera. As everybody knows, we are the Elevated Duty Podcast hosts. And this week we have someone. Well, we have two folks here, and that it was quite hard, It's quite hard, to get them. They were always like, oh, we have mission. We got a complete mission. Mission comes first, always. But
dragging them to the podcast, kicking and screaming.
I think they made it harder.
Yes.
For some reason. So welcome to the podcast, Sergeant Vu and Sergeant Borundaorta, Sergeant B.
Thank you for having us here, guys.
Welcome.
Appreciate it.
How you guys doing?
Doing good. We just got a early morning workout like we always do, and happy to be here.
So before we start, I have something for you guys. I wanna bring.
Okay.
I'm nervous. What he got?
Oh, jeez.
Oh. Oh.
For those who don't know, today we're talking about the Marine to Guard program, and
Yes.
Sergeant B and Sergeant Burundo, Sergeant B and Sergeant Vu, they both were Marines. They still, I think, they're always like
Once a Marine, always a Marine.
Yeah.
Still are.
Yeah, they look weird in Army uniform because they all behave like Marines, but they are Army. It's kind of weird.
Yeah.
But then I have some like gifts for you if you can pass that.
Jeez.
That way.
Oh my goodness.
And then pass it that way.
Make sure to show the camera.
And then please, if you can show the camera, open it.
Oh yeah. Are they edible?
Check that out. No, they are not.
High protein?
No, they're not edible. But then I have these.
That's cool. I'll put that on my desk.
So you can try it. Like I bought those. I don't know how they taste. So
We'll
you
crack
can.
them open, boo.
Cool. Let's see. So, you guys. I think it's like
Good work, Sergeant Rivera. This is a good start to a podcast.
right.
Let's check it out. Is it candy?
That's
Yeah.
candy, bro.
Definitely need some sugar in my body right now.
You go first, bro. Tell me how it tastes.
Just don't get confused and use the actual crayons. If you see there are like 4 cartridges and it says like RYGB, red,
okay.
yellow, green, blue on the green one. They're
good?
good. They're
Sour.
Fill in our listeners and our watchers that have maybe not seen the million memes online or heard the history. Why is it that Marines like crayons?
I honestly don't know the question to that answer.
I mean, I feel like somebody did it on YouTube before YouTube was big, and some Marine was crazy enough to eat a crayon in front of millions of people, and then it stuck. But I mean, Marines,
But it is real. Your MREs have crayons inside. No?
I mean,
look at Sergeant Bush's face.
I mean, we just MREs, you eat MREs. So they're the same. It's just the only thing is we still have the expired stuff from the Army. So
Oh yeah, all the time.
Yeah,
whatever the Army doesn't
good
take,
work.
the Marine Corps takes.
And then we added like crayons, right? Or no? Okay, enough with the joke.
So, for you viewers and listeners and watchers, you can go on and just Google. You'll see a million memes and videos that portray this. So, thank you guys so much. Do you want to kind of welcome and start off the podcast by introducing yourselves, your background, your history, where you came from, however much or however little of your life story as you would like to tell?
Sure.
Yeah. I'll go first. So my parents are both immigrants. I was born in Texas, El Paso, I was a citizen by birth. We moved out here when I was 3 years old. I've been in Aurora, Montbello, Denver. This has been my home for the last 30 years. So I love working here. This is my home. So when I joined the Marine Corps was 2010, and I was not ready for it. I walked into the Marine Corps duty station to recruiter just to get information, but at the same time, I was bored. I had studied for be a medical assistant because at the time after high school, they were saying, hey, medical field's going to be booming. So what I did was I went and got a degree to be a full tech x-ray technician and a medical assistant. So I did that I went to school for almost 2 years, and then was working in that field for, I said, like 6-8 months. And paychecks were all right. Starting off, it wasn't the biggest check, but I was bored of it. And I was like, that's not what I expected when I went to school for medical field. So I walked in the recruiting office right there on Arapahoe and Smoky Hill and Orchard.
Okay.
And I was like, hey, I just want to join. I was like, and he goes, why? He goes, I'm bored. And I was like, I want to push myself because, at the time, everyone knows the Marine Corps is tough. Everyone knows the Marine Corps has high standards and discipline, and they're mean, they're aggressive. And it's like, at that time, I was like, it sounds like a right fit for me.
Sure.
So I walked in, the recruiter was like, hey, what's wrong with you? It's like, nothing, what's wrong with you? So he signed me up. I went to basic training in San Diego. Did I think I cried a couple times there. I ain't gonna lie. It was not what I expected. It was actually pretty tough. So, my recruiter put me in as an open contract.
Okay.
So, which means when you get an open contract, it means whatever the Marine Corps needs.
Needs of the Marine Corps.
Mm-hmm.
So, luckily, I was fortunate enough to be smart, and they say, "Oh, you can be a nerd." So they gave me 0651, which is a data network specialist.
Okay.
And I didn't know what it was because at basic training, when they read out your name and the job you're going into, they were like, Private Borunda, 0651. And he was like, what is that, sir? He goes, you're a nerd. I was like, I still don't know what that is. So it definitely didn't fit what I expected. So I went to 29 Palms, California. I was there for 6-7 months to learn the job of data network specialist. And then after that, I went to Camp Lejeune. I was there for the remainder of my contract. My experiences there, and it varies. It's like anything you do, it's new, it's different, it's not what you're used to. And then constant deployments to overseas. And the whole time I was over in Lejeune, I think 3-4 deployments back to back. And at the end of it, I was like, wow, I'm tired. And like I said, the beautiful thing about the military is that there are many opportunities. If active duty is what you want to do, by all means, go active duty and then figure out your path. After I was done with my contract, I still wanted to serve. And I was like, what's the National Guard? I walked in the National Guard office, Sergeant Clark. Before he was the IT guy for recruiting, he was my recruiter. I walked into his office. He goes, what's up, man? And with his eyes wide open, and it's like, I just want a home. He's like, we got you. He got me in, put me at 540th. I've been with 169. I've been with 1157th Infantry, back to 169, back to 540th, full circle. And I ain't gonna lie, there's many difference between the Marine Corps and National Guard, but the best part is the opportunities for me to grow as a leader, continue my career. I said I didn't miss a step, and then I got to develop myself outside the military, higher paying jobs, the house I own, the cars I drive. It's now I can experience what I want to do and not be living in the barracks, being told when to wake up, what to do, which is not bad. Like I said, it's discipline. That's what the Marine Corps is about. But different stages of your life, you want something different. When I was young, yes, I wanted the toughness, I wanted the aggressiveness, I wanted to be competitive. The Marine Corps offered that. And the older you get, I said, different stages of life you're at, you go on something different. So, like I said, that's the beauty of the military.
I love it.
You don't got to stick to one thing. you can change. You go from Marine Corps to Air Force to Army, Navy to National Guard, whatever you want to do. It's your career. You see, you can still make what it is, and if something doesn't suit you, I said different jobs. You can always change your job. You can always change duty locations.
Mm-hmm.
National Guard, I just want to be home. Family was one of my biggest thing. Is I want to be here for my family and start putting roots. I mean, 35 years old. I'm not getting younger. So, and then I mean, kudos to all the active duty guys out there who do 20 years and retire, and they're still in their mid 30s. But I know they had to do a lot of sacrifice to get there. Yep. And with National Guard, you don't got to sacrifice too much, which is what I wanted. But that's where I came from, why I joined the Marine Corps, why I'm here in National Guard now, and I'm going to send it off to Vu.
Cool. Yeah. So I started my career in 2010 as well in the Marine Corps. My parents were immigrants, right? They all came from Vietnam. So the first thing I kind of did was I was in high school, and what had happened was, I was growing up being bullied, right? I was a fat kid, right? I was 240 pounds soaking wet, right? And I was getting tired of it, right? And so what happened was I started clicking with a bunch of Asian kids, right? So I actually, if nobody knows, I was actually part of a gang at one point in time, right? I grew up just gangbanging, right? Sling dope, right? And I just got tired of it. And eventually one day the realism kicked in, reality check kicked in, where we went to some guy's job, jumped him, right? And then what happened was I actually got in my first shooting, right? And so that kicked in. I was like, man, I need a change in my life, right? And so during that time when I was in high school, there was the first recruiter. I mean, I saw recruiters all the time coming in and out of the high school, right? Yep. But what kind of shine a light was that Marine Corps recruiter, right? He was in his dress blues, right? Mm-hmm. And I was like, dude, I want to be just like him, right? Mm-hmm. So I walked up to him, right, just by myself. 240-pound kid, soaking wet, just came up and was like, hey, man, like, what is this about? Right? Oh, he's like, yeah, man, this is the Marine Corps, man. This is the best of the best, right? I was like, cool, how do I do this, right? And he was like, yeah, man, how about this, man? You just come into my office and we can kind of talk about the career path that we can take you, right? And he never mentioned anything about, hey, I have to lose weight, right, or anything like that during that time, right? And I'll say, hey, man, I don't have a ride to that office, right? And so what had happened was, you know how recruiters are, right? So they're like, hey, man, you don't have to worry about getting a ride here. I'll pick you up and I'll bring you back to my office, right? So we kind of sat down, took a practice test. I mean, I didn't score too well, but hey, at least I was able to score to pass and get in, right? And the next step was getting my physical done and all that. But before I got my physical done, I had to lose weight. Okay, so at my last year in high school as a senior, I had enough credit, right, where I can take just gym classes, right? So what I did was I just took a bunch of body, they call it BFS, like it's like fast and strength or something like that. But I basically, in that strength class, I ran every single day on a treadmill, right, with a hoodie and everything. And I was able to drop 240 pounds to 180. Wow. Right, just to join the Marine Corps, right? But the great thing about when I joined the Marine Corps was they had some sort of called delay entry program, right? Yep. So I was kicking it with the kids there. We were doing workouts, and I was a stud, right? I was a physical stud while I was there. After that, I wanted to do my physical, and he got me on the right track, right? Because I wanted to leave that gang life behind, right? Being able to make a difference for myself and for my family, right? Making my parents proud, right? For having to be able to come to America, right? To give me a better life, right? And so I joined the Marine Corps, went to basic training in 2010. Same thing, went to San Diego, California, right?
Hollywood.
One of the things that when I was there, it was hard, right? It was mentally challenging because you're right next to the dang airport, right? So every day you would see the airplanes take off, right? Airplanes coming in, right? Every single day while you're there. But it definitely created a better person for me, right? I was very independent very early on in my life. Yeah. Right. And so that's why, like what Sergeant Borundaorta was saying, like, hey, like if you want to go active duty, right? But like I tell everybody, like military life is not for everybody, right? That's why the National Guard is here, right? So if you decide, hey, you want to do it part-time, get your feet wet, understand if the military life is for you, then go active duty, right? Hey, we have the opportunities to go that route, right? Not a lot of people understand that. right? People think that, hey, you can just come into the guard and now, hey, you're stuck, right? But yeah, so I went to basic training in San Diego, and then I went to 29 Palms for MOS training. While I was there, I was stuck there, right? So if nobody knows what 29 Palms is a straight desert, right? Where, especially during the summertime, where you can get up to in 100 degrees, they have what you call a black flag, right? So if you guys don't know what a black flag is basically where you cannot do PT on outside.
Too hot.
Because it's way too hot.
Wow.
Hot and dry.
Right. Yeah, hot and dry is nasty out there. The one thing that I always remember about 29 Palm was they call it the sugar cookie. That thing was trauma to me, right? So the sugar cookie, the sugar cookie is basically a big hill where it's just a bunch of sand,
Soft
right?
sand.
The soft sand, right? So it's kind of like running on the beach,
Okay.
but now you're going uphill, right? And so that is our PT, basically every single day, right? And then after that, you go to the pit where you do like McMAP, right? So Marine Corps martial arts program, right? And then, yeah, that was it, man. So I spent my time there, and I was like, you know, at the time where my contract was coming up, I was like, man, do I want to stay in? At the time, also when it was coming to my end of my contract, I was like, man, I need to get an education, right? Like, why not utilize the education benefits that the military is providing to me, right? So I got out, right? I have a family, right? So one of the things is like, hey, I want to be home with my family at all times, right? So I got out, went back to Minnesota, right? That's where I grew up. Shout out Shakopee for all the Shakopee kids that are listening right now. But yeah, man, I go home. I still hang out with my friends, right? Especially with the ones that I grew up with in the gang life, right? A lot of them have changed, right? A lot of them are still the same, right? So, you know, I don't know, smoking weed, right? Just hustling and bustling, right? Trying to make a living for themselves, right? But it's very redundant for them, right? So I'm just watching them, I'm just like, man, like, you guys need to grow up, right? So they view me as a person where they're like, dude, you got your life together, man. Like, you know, like, I envy you, right? Props to you for doing what you did. But yeah, a lot of them have businesses now, and it's nice to go home and see your friends that you grew up with, having a business, right? Having a family. And yeah, so after that, once I got out of the Marine Corps, I went to school, right, in Minnesota. I actually went to school to become a cop. Right, right when I was about to graduate, if you guys didn't know, the George Floyd thing had happened in Minnesota.
Yep.
Right, and so I was like, man, do I want to be a police officer during this time? Right, so I had to kind of change my perspective on what I want to do in life. Right, so I ended up graduating, went back to a full-time civilian job, right, at some factory. Right, it was great, good money, good paying, but it wasn't enough for me. Right, it was very redundant. Every day, it was the same thing over and over again, having to deal with civilian people, right? It's a change, right? So, funny thing was, when I was working at the time, I was still checking my college emails, right? Because, you know, you get those college benefits, you know, as a student still, right? Yeah. So, funny, and then when I was looking through my email, I saw one of my buddy that I had served with, right? He's actually Staff Sergeant Mandel, right? He's probably gonna be watching this and laugh, but he hit me up. He shot up with a generic email. I was like, well, I recognize that name. So I called him up, and we had a conversation. And then I was like, hey, man, like, what's going on in your life? I was like, hey, man, you ever thought about coming into the National Guard? I was like, what the heck is the National Guard, right? Nobody knows. Like, I didn't know about the National Guard until I got out, right? And so he's like, yeah, man, it's just a part-time, you know, like, just the Army. I was like, nah, man. Army is not for me, right? Because I still had that ego of my uniform, like that pride being a Marine. But at the same time, I was thinking, man, like, I got nothing going on in my life right now, right? I don't want to be stuck here at a job, right? I'm looking for a career, right, that can kind of progress me along the way and provide for my family. So I went into his office, I sat down with him, and I had a conversation. I was like, hey, man, like, I don't want to do this part-time. If this is a part-time thing, I don't want it, right? So the cool thing is I didn't know that the Army National Guard has full-time opportunities, right? And so he was like, hey, man, like, we have full-time opportunities, and we can get you in, right? So as long as you get in, I can help you out, right? So went through the whole MEPS physical again, right? As prior service, right? It was definitely weird, right? You go up there, and they're like, hey, who's prior service here? I was the only guy that raised my hand. up there, right? And they're like, yes, yeah, like, and the whatever the instructor was up there, right? He's like, hey, yeah, like don't talk to that prior service guy, right? I was like, all right, man, cool, right? Better for me, right? So, but it was great because they treated me with like a red carpet treatment while I was up there, right? I got through everything. Physical was good. Enlisted to the Army, Minnesota Army National Guard, actually. So I was out there for a little bit. I was with the 34th Infantry Battalion, right, for the infantry BSB. So yeah, so I was up there doing support. I came in as an 88 Mike, which is a motor transport operator. Did that for a little bit, and then I was like, and then he put me on orders for recruiting. Right, just coming from the Marine Corps, man. Like I was a very introverted person, right? Never really liked people, never really talked to people, right? I was just to myself, right? So what happened was this recruiting job made me into a monster, right? Into an extrovert, right? And so honestly, I love it, right? Because now I can go out and talk to people whenever I want to, just talking to people about the Guard and the opportunities that they have. Hey, like maybe the Marine Corps is not for you. Maybe the National Guard is a better way for you as far as longevity goes, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, man, like ever since then, I did the Minnesota Army National Guard for a little bit as doing recruiting, and then I actually met a girl out here in Colorado, right? And so what happened was I pretty much packed up everything, IST out here, did an interstate transfer to Colorado Army National Guard.
Yeah.
Before I did that, I sat down. I actually flew out here to talk to, if you guys know him, Master Sergeant Dowdy. Right, Chad Dowdy. Had a conversation with him at a coffee shop, and he was like, "Hey, man, like you'd be a great asset for us." Right? I was like, "Okay, cool." So I did an IST transfer. Took a little bit of time, right? But it got done, and then I packed up everything and moved down here to Colorado, right? And then started my recruiting career. But yeah, I was, when I first got into recruiting, it was a lot of phone calls, right? Doing the beginning stages of recruiting. And then it created that extroverted out of me. And now I'm here today, trying to represent the Colorado Army National Guard and getting people the opportunity to serve with us and, change their life.
Absolutely love it. One of the things I thought about during both your stories was how that benefits the National Guard as a whole. We have quite a bit of prior service individuals that come into our organization and bring those backgrounds from all over. And that only makes us stronger. Mm-hmm. How hard was the process as prior service coming into the Guard? Was it pretty easy?
It was a shell shock.
Yeah, it was culture shock for sure. Right. Just going to my first unit, and just seeing how everybody's so friendly with each other, right? And just coming with a Marine Corps mentality where it's like,
snap, parade, rest, everything you talk to.
E4s, right, are supposed to be in parade rest.
Oh, sure.
Talk to people, right? Yeah. Or talking to your seniority, NCOs. Right? NCOs. So, yeah, that was definitely different. I had to get used to that culture, right? It was definitely a change for me, but luckily I had another prior service Marine, right, that was there with me, and he was like, "Hey, man, like this is the National Guard, right? This is the National Guard, so it's part time, right? So these individuals are still trying to understand like the difference between being just a citizen, but also a soldier at the same time, right? So, yeah, it was definitely a culture shock for me. I don't know how your experience was. So
yeah, that was the same thing. Is that showed up no uniform. Because I didn't have any Army stuff yet.
Yeah.
2 months or 3 months, I think I didn't have anything. And showed up, and I said, my Marine Corps instincts kicked in. Like I say, people talking however they want to officers, to senior NCOs. I'm like, snap out of it, getting parade rest. And I was like, but like I said, luckily we had good leadership because he's right. National Guard soldiers are not saying they're weak. It's not saying they're soft. It's just they volunteered to be here, to be part of the military, especially if they have families, they have a full-time job, they have other stressors, and they come here, they want to serve. They want to be part of an organization that gives to the community. And like I said, coming from active duty Marine Corps, I didn't understand that. And the more I got mentored and corrected in my ways, because it's not different leadership styles. Is the Marine Corps has their own way and the Army has their own way. National Guard we have our own way. Yep. Because we want to make sure these individuals come in They feel valued. They get they're doing what we need to get done, and I don't want to send them home angry. I don't want to send them home miserable, because sometimes I don't see these guys for a whole month, and however I left off last drill, I'm gonna see them again, and I probably have the same emotions. So they probably held that emotion for 28 days, 30 days, and I can only see at that time I was like, oh wow. So you felt this certain way, you felt disrespected, you felt anger the whole time you were gone, and I'm sorry you had to do that to your family, because I didn't understand. Right? That's the difference between when you're active duty and to the Reserve National Guard.
Seeing your soldiers every day.
Yeah. I mean, in the Marine Corps, I mean, I got my chewed, and I would see the same guy who chewed me out at the barracks. I'd be hanging out with the sergeants and drinking on the weekends. I said, there's a time and place, right? So that way they can help me understand my failures, to understand what the task was or what they were trying to get to me. But we had time for each other to build that camaraderie, build that friendship, build that understanding. That way, when I go back to work the next day, I already had a few beers with the NCO that made me feel like crap. But he helped me better myself, because now I know why he yelled at me. Cool. Now I understand. I said, it makes you better. The National Guard is no different. I said, but we take a different type of leadership style, because we're still getting the job done. They're still learning. They're still getting disciplined. They're still coming in. And that's the big thing. They're coming in. Every month they're coming in. Because, I mean, God forbid they say, hey, I don't want this anymore. They don't show up. They go AWOL. And it's like, oh, that's me. I did that.
Right.
Because I didn't understand. But luckily, I said, the years I've been in National Guard, my leadership style has changed a little bit. It's still the same. I'm still aggressive. I'm still competitive. I'm very direct, because that's how I was as a Marine. But I do it to where they understand. I don't do it just to mess with them. I do them to understand, figure out what they were thinking, figure out what was going through their mind, what they're dealing with outside the military. So, like I said, I'm more compassionate, but I'm still that lean, mean Marine inside.
So, talking about that, the culture shock. Recently, we had a Marine in our unit. He just transferred from active duty, and you can tell he was confused.
Oh yeah,
like
definitely.
You can see the culture shock on their faces. So on close-out formation, we do the formation, and the first sergeant do fall out, do a horseshoe around me, because I'm gonna speak to you guys. That's the way he do it, because it gets closer, it gets less formal.
Yeah, more
so
personal.
it feels more personal. It
Sure.
feels like, even though you have 40, 50 people on that horseshoe, doing that horseshoe is like I'm speaking to you, even though you're the first sergeant is speaking to 50 or 60 people. So I was looking at him, and he looked so confused. He's like, what's going on? What's this? What's horseshoe formation? What the hell is this? So funny thing, I was gonna approach him, but then I got our platoon sergeant called us when I was looking for him. I wanted to talk to him. I was like, hey, I wanted to give your contact. He said, hey, I see your culture shock if you want me to. But he left. He was so fast. They got dismissed so fast. So, but you can tell the culture shock was there. He was like, what's going on in this place? But it's because of that. And that happens even for the army side. When you go from being an M-Day soldier to going back to TRADOC, is a culture shock. Mm-hmm. I had to reclass in order to be public affairs. It was a full PCS, 7 months up in Maryland. First time you walk into the door, there's drill sergeants waiting for you there, and then first thing they don't ask me what's your name. It's like, why are you in civilians? That's the first thing they ask. And I'm like, I'm coming from Puerto Rico. It's basically Ocanos, so we are not allowed to travel in uniform. But then he started shooing me. I'm like, I got the culture shock right there. I'm like, okay. I was like, change them. You gotta change the mentality. You gotta change the mentality. You gotta change the mentality. So it's a weird feeling, right?
It's crazy. the Marine Corps, we're not allowed to even leave posts in uniform.
Mhm.
So you got to change.
Oh, really?
So you
Yeah.
can't travel in uniform. If you travel and you're flying and you want to wear your dress uniform
Yeah.
or your service uniform, cool, you can. But OCPs or
Digis.
digis, deserts or woodlands, you can't. And
That's
sometimes
crazy.
when we look around, that's like, even I feel worse sometimes where I wear my uniform outside of post because like it makes me a target.
Right.
But at
Mhm.
the same time, is that Marine Corps mentality is like we're supposed to be outside post in uniform. And if we do, I said we were in Camp Lejeune. I mean, it's a Marine Corps town. It's a
Right.
Everyone is a Marine by affiliation.
Yeah.
So if someone sees you outside the post in uniform, you best believe someone's gonna find out, a sergeant major, or first sergeant somewhere, and it's like, who does he belong with? And then you're easily to track down because it's very close knit, the Marine Corps, especially if you're in one of those big bases like Pendleton, Camp Lejeune, Okinawa. Everyone knows everybody by somehow.
Sure.
And as long as they know your name, they can track you down easily.
Wow.
There was something you guys had said earlier that I want to retouch on is when you had left the Marine Corps and you were thinking about, and you didn't know about the National Guard, and you kind of stumbled upon and wanted to get back into the brotherhood. When we talk with individuals about selling the benefits and incentives of the National Guard or the military in general, right? So education and monetary incentives and benefits and adventure. But one of the things that's brushed over a lot, but we talk about it on almost every podcast. You were touching on it just now with how small the Marine Corps is. It's kind of the same in the National Guard. Would you agree? Small community. When you came back in, that one thing that was missing when you left the Marine Corps, that brotherhood and sisterhood, that camaraderie that you can't get on the civilian side that you were working with. Did you find that back here in the National Guard when you joined after the Marine Corps?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah.
It was great, like just having Sergeant Borunda here because, as far as just being in the office, right? Just another Marine that you can have a conversation with. Like, yeah, you guys went through the same struggle together, right? I was shocked when I came to the National Guard and just noticing how many Marines are in the National Guard, right? Unless you ask, you won't know. But like usually what happens is that hey, some when you're wearing your OCP and then you see that deployment patch, right? And you're like, dude, that dude's a Marine, right? So then you just have a conversation. Hey, man, I was a Marine too, right? And you just have that conversation, and then become brothers real fast, which is crazy. Which in the military, it's like even if you don't know that person, right? You just have that connection, right? And then you just become really very close, right? Like I don't even know what Sergeant Bruno for like a year now.
Oh yeah, it's been a year because you walked in the recruiting office.
Right?
At that time, I was honor guard.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Who is this guy?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "It's like, I was a Marine too." Like, okay.
Yeah.
And then what the Marines do is we challenge each other. Oh, where were you stationed at? What job you had?
Yeah.
And so like, oh, okay. You were a Marine.
And I'll guess what? Like a year later, I'm living with this guy,
Yeah.
right? And so it's crazy, like that connection with just being a Marine, right? Or just being a military service member, right?
Yep.
Like I'm pretty sure, like a lot of you guys out there, like you go to your unit and you just click right away, right?
Yep.
It's the same thing with us, right?
I mean, the camaraderie is there too because even though the Marine Corps, you're active duty or whatever you are, you're active duty, you have a close knit group that you always work out with, you live with, you go out drinking with, so you have that bond. Here, I said, National Guard, you have the same opportunities because I mean, how long have I worked with you, Norcross?
Yeah, a long time.
What I'm saying? And then learning VU, Dupuis, honor guard members, unit members from 540th Infantry. Like I said, I've crossed paths with a lot of soldiers in the National Guard, and even though they all have different stories, the friendship is there, the camaraderie is there. If I need help, they're there to help me out as well. So like I said, you don't lose the camaraderie going National Guard. You just have people in different places now because I have people in Springs and Grand Junction, and everybody in this National Guard is supposed to say, what's the National Guard here? 3,000 strong soldiers from the state. So that we're all numbered by community because I mean, how big is Colorado?
Right.
Yeah.
So, but I said knowing people in different areas and then knowing that they can count on me also whenever they need something. Had a lot of people, that I enjoy being around with, like Sergeant Vu. Just because we're Marine Corps background, I mean, regardless, he still has that military personality that I had the same sense of humor. I said it's great. I said I joke well with Norcross. He's never been a Marine, but he has that Marine Corps mentality too, because it's the shooting, the aggressiveness when it comes to competing.
Maybe the crayon eating part.
Competing, the competitiveness of yourself. That's
Sure.
what the Marine Corps is.
Yeah.
I said everyone has the ability to be Marine, but I mean, National Guard has the opportunities to grow how you want to grow. So instead of being by different terms brainwashed, because if you don't drink the Kool-Aid in the Marine Corps, you're not going to fit in.
Right.
You got to make sure you're always on, because there's always someone watching you to see who you mess up, and then that's the stress of being a Marine is who's watching me. I got to be on my A game.
Yeah, talking about washing, and you mentioned something, Sergeant B, your patch. You went kind of viral in our Facebook because I think it was one of the picture of the NBA of the Nuggets game.
Mm-hmm.
You had the patch, and people were asking, "Oh, what's the National Guard like? Why he's wearing a Marine patch?" And then people were so confused. They started sharing, and they started commenting.
Sure.
And then, funny thing, there's a lot of Marines following us, and they were like, "Oh, probably he was deployed with the Marine." What was your patch? Your deployment? The one you were wearing?
So the second MEF, right? 'Cause I was out there with them in Afghanistan. I was attached to them, and got to see how a brigade asset or hire works. You know, being that IT for that organization, a lot of top secret stuff, a lot of crazy stuff going on. So it's like I was attached with them in Camp Leatherneck at the time, and then out there I was moved around to Camp Dwyer and Lashkar Gah. But being attached with them out there is very, very different. So I mean, and then just to go off of it, a soldier can wear a 2MEF Marine Corps patch. So we have last deployment in 2017. I was with 169. I was in Dubai, but I got to travel to Iraq, to Kuwait, to Syria. Well, it was a pretty cool deployment. But there was our radar group, our radar platoon. They were attached in Iraq, and they fell under a Marine Corps. They fell under 2MEF. So they were authorized to wear the 2MEF patch. So a soldier can wear Marine Corps patches.
Yeah.
I mean, I know there's a lot of old heads out there. It's like, oh, you can't cross branches. I was like, you don't know what their story is. If they were out there and a whoever it is, a 2-star, a 1-star, a colonel writes a memo to these soldiers that they were attached to them during deployment,
yeah,
they can wear it. I see a lot of brothers wear the 2MEF, the second, what's the other one? MR, I can't even think anymore. It's been a long time in the Marine Corps. I've seen.
All your ribbons transfer as well, right? You don't lose that sense of anything you've gained in the Marine Corps. All those accolades continue, and you put those Marine Corps ribbons on your dress uniform, correct?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, what they call me, Sergeant Major sometimes, because when I put on my uniform, yes, I do have multiple deployments, 2 branches worth of ribbons.
War hero. Yeah.
And when they see me, they're like, "Oh, I thought you were a Sergeant Major." I'm like, "No, I'm just a staff sergeant."
Yeah.
That's like, which is crazy because most of my peers are either first sergeants or either master sergeants right now. So it's like, it's a difference between seeing them and seeing me as where I'm at in life. But it's like they're about to get out, they're about to or go somewhere else. I'm comfortable. I have my place here. I said the way the rank works in the National Guard, it's a little different, but you have time to grow in that position. You have time to understand what your roles are.
Now, both of you, when you were telling about your stories and growing up and kind of what drew you to the Marine Corps, right? That lifestyle, seeing that dress uniform, toughest, hardest, right? What would you tell our listeners and watchers? Okay, yes, the Marine Corps has that stigma, right, and that reputation for turning civilians into Marines. What would you tell somebody that's wants that within the National Guard?
I mean, there's nothing. The only thing different is the Marine Corps. I said they train you from the beginning. They break you down. They build you up in the way they think you should think, the way that you should conduct yourself. There's nothing different between their basic training. It's just a little more harsh, a little more hands-on than basic training in the Army. But I mean, if a soldier takes pride, and I know a lot of soldiers that look good, that take pride, that are disciplined, and like I said, we did honor guard for how long? For 3 years. I did 3 years. You did almost like 7-8 years, but you had that pride in uniform, that pride of being the best, looking sharp, and that's the same thing in the Marine Corps. Like we're always the mentality is, I want to look the best, I want to be the best. And if you have that same mentality in the National Guard, and regardless if you have the same mentality as a civilian, you're going to conduct yourself very well. So there's nothing different between us. It's just if you choose to do what you want to do and you want to be that lean, mean person, then be that person. But be humble, because National Guard, we are a little different on our mission and our priorities with how we treat each other. And we want to make sure everyone's taken care of. But if you want to look like me, as I said, I think that I can count a few that I enjoy working with in Honor Guard that look the sharpest, that knew the SOP, that knew how to do things correctly. And I said, and then their uniforms were outstanding.
Sure.
And their mentality was very bearing. Like they were, when they do this, the switch turned on. And it's like, and that's the same thing with the Marines. You just have that switch constantly on. But if you choose to keep that switch on your head and be always doing the best, being the top dog, being aggressive but humble at the same time, is just, you can
I like
do
that. And especially in the National Guard, being able to come to drill weekend, flipping that switch on mentally, going to work, volunteering for everything, giving it 100% of what you got, and then you get to kind of turn it off in between drills and learn how to control it. So,
and that's why I think there's a culture shock when Marines get out of the Marine Corps, is because they've had that switch on so long in their head for however long they served, that when they come out, it's hard to turn it off. And it takes time. Like I said, a lot of people come out and they suffer because they can't distinguish how to treat people outside the military, because they've been treated that way their entire career or their first contract, so they're very hot-headed, and it takes time to break some of those habits. But with us, it's like, you know when to turn it on, you know who to turn on with, and then turn it off at home, because when you're with your family, you don't want to be that staff sergeant, that sergeant major, that
right.
And when they bring it home with them, that doesn't make for a good household. I mean, kudos to all the active duty guys that take it home, and their spouses, their family members can deal with that. The reason why there's a high divorce rate is the reason why there's a high suicide rate, is because they can't distinguish. And once they lose that piece of themselves after they get out of the Marine Corps, or they can't adjust, and that's the sad part of it.
Would you agree that possibly, whether it's the Marine Corps or any active duty component, where the switch is turned on 24 hours a day, 365, and being able to transfer to the Guard, do you think the Guard is a good opportunity to help learn how to control those emotions?
I would say so, yes, because just coming to the Guard, like, I didn't realize there were so many people that came from the active duty side, right? And so you have that mentorship, right? A person that's on active duty, they'll know who came from active duty, right? And then they'll guide them, they'll mentor them, right? And eventually they'll become friends, right? And it's great because now that, hey, that former active duty that just got out, hey, now they can kind of cope and understand, slowly, but they'll get there eventually, right? And that's the great thing about the National Guard, right? If I didn't have that Marine Corps buddy that was at my unit, right, I probably get out of the National Guard.
Really?
Right. But luckily I had him there, right, to kind of guide me and show me and mentor me. Like, hey, this is the National Guard, right? Hey, there's times where you can turn off the switch, right? You don't have to keep it on 24/7, right? And so, I thank him for, being there, right? But there's also like Army active duty guys that I was serving with at my unit, right? And kind of giving me the same thing, right? The mentorship, the guidance, right? And how to cope with it, right? So I would say, like, if you're active duty, like coming from active duty and coming to the National Guard, hey, there are guys that were just like you, right? That can kind of help you and guide you to turn.
Still just like you, still serving.
Exactly.
I want to shout out to Chief Welsh. He's recently, I believe, retired now. But he's the one that gave me the most eye-opening, life-changing quote that gave me from the mentality of the Marine Corps to the National Guard. He said, "Hey, brother, you gotta let that go. You can't. You're not gonna do well here." It's the same thing about drinking the Kool-Aid in the Marine Corps. If you said, here, you can drink the Kool-Aid, but there's a different flavor, right? Different crayon for different branches. So, so the Marine Corps, like I said, you're constantly eating the red ones. Here, you gotta eat the green ones, and the leadership ways of doing things is different. But when he said that, it's like, why am I holding on to something? I know there's the motto of always a Marine, once a Marine, always a Marine. And I still believe that. I still carry myself well. I still carry myself because I like to be aggressive, be competitive, do what I gotta do to make sure my guys are taken care of, to make sure that the mission's taken care of, to make sure that there's nothing in my way. And sometimes that's going back to the Marine Corps, because it's like sometimes if it's in my way, I'm gonna push through it. And it may piss people off. Yeah. But knowing what I can and can't do, and the National Guard is different than the Marine Corps.
That's great, you know. Since the moment I heard of you guys being a Marine, and I've been pushing so hard to get you here. First, you know, I barely have spoken on this podcast. I wish I got more guests like you guys. That I just, you know, we can just sit down and, you know, listen to your stories, because that's why we build this podcast, is to listen to you guys, not for us to tell our story. Right. Even though we give a glance of here and there of where we come from or stories, we want to hear what our people need to say, you know. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if you guys want to watch the videos, but I don't think it's necessary.
I mean, you can put them on if you want.
I don't think it's necessary, but I'm gonna put one of them.
So we can laugh.
NGB did one of it. I want to.
What is it, Marine Guard?
You know what? I'm gonna put one that is not NGB related. Let me change.
You know, we didn't even mention, like, the National Guard is the retirement home for the Marine Corps.
It is
right, and so, like, for me,
and we're gonna see that here.
Okay,
it's kind of similar. So
TikTok.
Look at that. Let me.
Oh yeah.
Marine Corps, they went and joined the National Guard. I actually met quite a few of them in Syria and in Iraq. So, short story, I
like this guy.
I was on one of
it's
the
funny.
outstations in Syria.
He's a warrant officer too.
And I walked up to one of the battle positions because I wanted to just kind of take a look at the area that we were in, see what they were seeing. I was just curious. I wanted to just get a good, well-rounded picture. And got to talking with the guy. Dude was in the National Guard. He turns out he had served in 8th Marines, and he was in Lejeune for a while. And then when he got out, he went back to work in his home state, and he decided, you know what, I want to join the National Guard. So he joined the National Guard to get some extra benefits, a little bit extra pay, while also having a full-time career. And he got a deployment.
What do you guys think about that?
So it happens. I said the opportunities of the military is beautiful, right? Like I said, we did our active duty time. At some point of our lives, we wanted something different, and mine was family and stability. And when I got here, I was getting offered for jobs that were like $32 an hour, $40 an hour, just to do IT. And the IT that is not the same as when you go to college for a bachelor's, but it's experience.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Learning how to use the equipment, how to configure certain radios, how to do all the different types of what the company requires. So it's like, I'm getting how much to do the same thing I've been doing in the military? And I didn't even go to college for this. I just got a bunch of certs from the military that I can transfer to civilian side.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, all right, I'll do that. And then at the same time, I said, being freshly out of the Marine Corps, I was just trying to find another home, because even though I got out, I still wanted to serve. I still wanted to be part of something. And when I was in Afghanistan, I was with the National Guard I was a Marine. They were National Guard in Nebraska and South Dakota, and I still have friends with them on Facebook.
Yeah.
That were out there, and I enjoy the way they worked. They were happy. They were very, very professional. They were like they were masters of their crafts. Yeah. And I was like, what is a National Guard? So when I got in the Marine Corps, I was like, if I do anything else, I'm gonna do National Guard. I know there's a Marine Corps Reserves. I know there's a Army Reserves, Navy Reserves. It's all to me, all the same. But I was like, you know what? I don't want to do that. I want to do National Guard because there's something about them. When I was out there as a Marine, that like they work well. They know how to get things done, and that's the. And I said, not to talk any on this podcast, but when we were out there in Iraq and with active duty Army, they looked at us different because like, oh, you're a National Guard, but the Marine Corps in me wanted to be like, who the are you talking to? They're a soldier.
All the prior service individuals that you have that connection with, do you think that this is a good home that everyone's found that you've talked to?
Yeah, I said every Marines here is good, or that I know, people in infantry, people in artillery. I mean, Chief Welsh made it a career.
Right.
He came in. He was a Marine too, and he was I believe what he said he was. I think it's a tanker. I can't think of the amphibious machine anymore. It's been so long in the Marine Corps, but he was part of that, and he saw some combat, and he came to National Guard and was one of the biggest assets they had here because he was in charge of targeting for 169. Yeah, and he was the master of his craft, and he made it a career in the National Guard. He got up to CW4, CB3, I believe, and I retired. But it's like I said, he made an impact in the National Guard because of his drive, of his mission first, his ability to take care of his soldiers. Sure. And I said, people can make it a career, and he got out with I believe a bachelor's or a master's paid for by the military, and it's like, and he has his own home. He started his family, building roots, while still making an impact in the military. Yep. That to me is impressive.
Yep. We have a couple of other Marines here in the recruiting range battalion, right?
Yeah.
Is a Sergeant Parker, right?
Command Sergeant Major.
Yep. Sergeant First Class Parker is one. Our CSM is one.
Yep.
Right.
Jimeno.
Yep. So.
And then if you talk to them, they're the same way. Like, I mean, Parker is like I said, he's a cool guy. And if you talk to him, he can be stern, but he makes you understand how you messed up.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And then Sergeant Major Meno, coolest guy. I barely, like I said, recently heard of him because I didn't know who he was until I came to recruiting. And when he said, "Hey, Sergeant Borundaorta, come here," and I automatically just walked in, snapped the parade rest. I'm like, oh. I was like, "Well, you're a Marine?" I was like, "Yeah." Like, I don't know what is about your voice, but you scare me.
Yeah. Just to reiterate, we talked about it before. That's what I love about the National Guard. Seeing leadership styles come from the Marine Corps, the Air Force, the Navy, all branches of service coming here and being able to grow together. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's put another one. This is from NGB.
We'll have to give a shout out to who commented on our video. Sergeant Rivera, remind me, the influencer that got a clip of our video. What's his name?
Nico Ortiz. That's the one you're talking about, Sergeant Dupuy?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll give a shout out to, speaking of active duty, we'll have to at him because I would love to sit down and do a tele interview for 10, 15 minutes. Oh yeah, he commented on some of our videos. It was it was interesting. I would love for him to be listening to you too.
It backfired a little bit on him because the comments were like, well, Sergeant Dupuy is talking about the guard and
the benefits
in comparison with active duty, and then a lot of people was like, oh well, he's not wrong. A lot of people, a bunch of comments. I'll say it was like 60 to 70% were saying he's not wrong.
Right.
And
yeah, we'll have to add him now. We'll add him right now.
Do you mind if I say something real quick?
Yeah.
Please.
So, like I said, when I was in last one with 169, I said people saw us different because we were out there with active duty, and they were like, "Oh, you guys are National Guard brigade, and you're in charge of us. We're active duty." They didn't know how much knowledge and training and expertise the National Guard has because they sent me to QS. And I was out there with one. I'm not gonna say any units, but I was out there with another artillery unit, active duty, and like, hey, do you guys know how to set up your equipment, your communication equipment, your STT, your CPN? They're like, oh no, I thought you were here to do that for us. I'm like, excuse me, I'm here to help you, but I'm not here to do it for you. And then I ended up doing it for him, for them, And it just shows like, okay, you guys spend so much time doing all the other BS about marching and all this stuff, but you guys are not even trained in your jobs.
Yeah.
You guys don't take this seriously, because if you don't know your jobs, then what are you even active duty for? You're just collecting a paycheck.
Yep.
It's crazy. Like with the MechBot basically we augmentate the first ID, and we have a lot of soldiers that they do basically work with S2 or
Secret
G2.
Scroll.
Yeah. So once they go down there, they're like, "Oh, but have you tried this?" And they're like, "Wait, I didn't saw that," because we like our soldiers have a different approach. And majority of them they do same job that they do in the military. They do it on the outside because it's those jobs are high paying jobs like top security clearances and all that. So they instead of what I need to say is like what active duty needs to see is like, hey, those like soldiers are going that you see they're part time. Some of them they're full time.
Yeah.
In their civilian career, and they see like stuff that we don't see in the military, and they see probably they're way ahead of active duty soldiers. So
that's crazy, because 365 you're active duty soldier or whatever it is, Marine. So if you don't know how to do your job and you're full time,
it's kind of
weird. But when I was out there and they didn't know how to set up their equipment, because one, they didn't bring the right people. But
Can we pull this video, that guy that responded to it?
Oh yeah.
But it's like
we're gonna pull it up so if you haven't seen it. This way we can respond
other
to
people
them right
talk
now.
negatively about the other branches, it just shows their intellect. It just shows how stuck in their ways they are, because if they don't know what we're doing, how our mission is done, when we train 2 days a month, we're training. They're actually out there doing hands-on the equipment, and it can be 18-hour day or 20-hour day, and they're doing that training.
Yeah, I haven't been back on the podcast, and I'm glad you guys are here as we're pulling it up for this influencer.
Hell,
I can't
he's an
remember.
influencer.
Oh, yeah.
Is it? It was crazy what Cat Williams said. Is
Well,
that he can be an influencer and not influence, like, that damn do it. Not, what do you say?
So and it's crazy because he is.
He can be influenceless influencer.
I think he's a retired staff sergeant.
Yeah, that's cool.
So
I mean,
You said
retired staff sergeant? What a loser! I'm just kidding. No, I'm not. All props to him for being a staff sergeant, because I said it's not an easy rank to get into in the Army, especially active duty. But I mean, why not get out as a sergeant major and then say something?
Yeah,
That's awesome.
Let me resend it because it's not gonna show the updated, but then.
But like I said,
I want to get you guys' opinions on this one.
even being Marine or being any National Guard, I mean, we get people talk about us all the time.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny, we'll preface that before we watch this video. It's like, who wins best ranger, who wins best tanker, who wins best sniper, who wins? It's the National Guard.
That's what I was. Recently, we got this comment in YouTube, and I replied. I try to reply to all the comments.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, some people join the military, other people join the National Guard. I was like, guess what? When we go to international and like nationwide competitions, we won everything.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The guard, takes it home.
That's why I respect Norcross, because like he's an expert, not just in his field, but he's also a marksmanship coach, a marksmanship trainer. It's someone who takes pride in competing nationally, and he's won many awards doing that. And I know Marines show up and they don't stack up. I know active duty shows up and they don't stack up. Yeah. So it's like we do what we do best, and that's our job.
Yeah, here's this for you guys if you haven't seen it.
Yeah.
And the United States military.
They're definitely gonna.
Oh, I know this guy.
100%. They're also probably gonna tell you you're gonna get a fat bonus. They're probably gonna tell you.
Was he Navy?
Sign up as a water purification specialist.
No, he was Army.
Ranger school.
We have so many options. You can be full-time. You could be federally full-time as a technician. You can do the part-time thing your whole career. You can go to schools. You can get promoted. You can advance your civilian career. You can do anything you want to do in the military and on the civilian side as a member of any state's National Guard.
So what you're telling me is you can do everything in the National Guard that you can do on active duty? Let's just say there's 30 days in every single month. 1/15 of what the active duty does. Oh God, I hope that math is correct. I'm gonna feel so dumb if this. I think the math is correct on that.
I think the National Guard, any recruiter in the country in any state's National Guard is going to tell you we're the best kept secret in the United States military.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
definitely gonna tell you that. 100%.
So shout out to let me look at the name here.
Nick Ortiz.
Nick Ortiz. Hey,
No,
we'd love to talk to you and invite you on the podcast. Your views and opinions are top-notch quality.
So one thing, I'm gonna say, my wife is active duty. She's currently TDY, and then one of the things we both reserve, and one thing we share with National Guard, from reserve, is we are part-time. We are weekend warriors, right? On a 3-day weekend, the amount of stuff we completed, our background is maintenance.
Yeah.
My wife tells me, you know what active duty does? Monday motor pool, or motor pool Monday, whatever they call it. She's like, that's the only day they do actual stuff. All the units need to do all the PMCS and stuff. We on a weekend, we do 100% PMCS. Everybody goes to their assigned vehicles. Each platoon, they submitted it 5988s. We got all the parts that we have to install, and we install majority of them.
Yeah.
And then we have what's it called? FMS here in the National Guard.
Mm-hmm.
We have AMSAS in which is a maintenance shop for techs. They help us, but it's high end stuff. You need to change an engine, they do it. But guess what? Our platoon sergeant, you know what he's gonna do? He's gonna do, hey, who wants to learn that? We're gonna put you in orders. And that's why some of our soldiers are they're better trained because they know majority of our techs, because we have a dual membership.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to be in the guard in order to be a
technician.
tech.
Mm-hmm.
Guess what? Once you go to active duty, it's probably those active duty guys that they took a month to swap an engine when we don't have that amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
Our techs are doing
Yeah.
it.
So
our proficiency is higher.
shout out to Sergeant Dupuy, man, because he's one of the smartest guys I know. Like I said, he's a
Yes.
musician.
Yeah.
He's recruiting now full time because he was a teacher full time in
Yep.
opportunity of the military. He saw an opportunity to come in to just continue his service, to get that time in. I said, the cool thing about the National Guard when we get active duty orders, regardless, is shout out to this guy. 'Cause I watch his videos. I said I really don't know his name, but he's a character. He makes fun of all the branches, but I laugh. But at the same time, yes, we do the same thing active duty does, but guess what? We don't get messed with. We don't do
Yeah.
that BS. We don't.
Uh-huh.
We get paid to do our jobs.
Talking about BS, look at this comment. Here's a takeaway that most people don't get, though. You know how active duty every day is an FF game BS. It is only 2-3 days for National Guard plus money. Being that you're in the civilian 85% of your time, you don't need to have the struggle of $1,200 a month, that's not accurate. It's more money. Especially if you're married, you're gonna get your house. And so
absolutely.
so his comment is not 100% accurate, but the idea of this that you mentioned before, picking a high skill MOS and then using that MOS and then banking, so and then he's like, I got you enjoy both during my time in service, so you can take your own decision. Again, I think if you want that everyday active duty soldiering, go ahead and
Right.
I mean,
go
think about it, bro.
duty.
When we're active duty, man, how much time do we get messed with besides doing cage cleanups, mortar pool cleanups,
From morning till
connects,
Right.
connects cleanups? All we
Right.
do is clean. Glorified janitors when you're active duty. And then how much time do you spend on your equipment? I mean, we'll do training, but honestly, I've gotten more training in the National Guard than I've gotten in the Marine Corps to continue my career, to specialize in my craft. The opportunity is there, and like I said, this guy's a clown, but he talks out of his you know what.
I love it, and it's got to be a personality to it,
Yeah,
Nick.
but he has
we
to
appreciate
sell.
your service, and I just wish that you would encourage people to continue
I
serving.
hope he comes out.
And learn more about the National Guard, because we'd love to have you out. We'd love to show you
Yeah.
around. So if if you're interested in coming out, we'd love to sit down and talk to you.
Yeah, and show him what the National Guard actually
Yeah.
do.
I mean, if you want to talk about money stats, when I was active duty, when I was in the barracks making $1,800 a month, so it's $800 after taxes every 2 weeks. I live in the barracks, being yelled at, not the best living conditions, being stuck there because I didn't have a vehicle. opposed to people who just get married just to get out of the barracks. It's
Yeah.
like the lifestyle is not that great. People make it more than it is, and people can make it a career and enjoy what they're doing because you know what, probably they had a different type of experience when they were active duty. Maybe they got the nicer barracks, maybe they got the softer NCOs, but it doesn't change the type of their career. As I said, they loved what they do because they had to experience the good. When you experience the bad,
Yeah.
sometimes people get off their first contract. People get out. They don't want to get in the Marine Corps. They have bad taste.
And I know I can speak for myself and soldiers that you have both led and mentored. I want to thank you for continuing to serve in your service after the Marine Corps and come over to the Guard. You guys are absolute assets. The organization would suffer without the knowledge that you've brought over, and continue and lead with the mentalities that you bring over that help sharpen those soldiers. It's a different personality, and I can see it right away when I first met you two. But it's there is, in my opinion, there is no bad leadership style. The only bad leadership style is the absence of leadership. And for what I've seen from you two, it's outstanding. Should we go with the last two things that we always ask? Sergeant Rivera?
Yeah, we crossed already an hour, so I think we.
So for you guys to end, we always ask, who would you like to challenge to come on the podcast? Somebody that you've worked with, mentor. If you can throw out a name, and then leave us with a piece of advice or a quote, something that has stuck with you in your career. For those Marines listening that maybe want to come back and get this brotherhood and get back into the fight, active duty, whatever branch of service. I'll let you guys close us out.
I would say I'm gonna challenge the soldiers that I put in, right? Especially the prior service Marines as well, up in Bravo Company 157, right? So I put in a specialist Duran and a specialist Wright, right? Same thing, right? They had that culture shock when they first came in, right? Especially specialist Wright. He came in and he was like, dude, I hate this, right? Because he still had that on switch 24/7.
Yep.
So what I did was, hey, we're still talking to this day, right? Like once they're in, man, they're like my friends, right? He talks to me and he's asking me all these questions about like, man, like what can I do to kind of like shift that perspective, right? And now guess what? Now he's going to SFAS, right? For 18X, or just becoming a Green Beret. So that's his
great.
next step, right? But yeah, that's what I would say. The one thing I always tell everybody about the National Guard is, hey man, like you get to actually choose where you want to live, but also choose what you want to do, right? Instead of the military telling you what to do and where to live. So that's where I'll end up.
Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, who to pick? I mean, I've known so many great individuals in the National Guard. Right now, who's currently still in that I would say, hey, have him here because he's a badass. I'm sorry if I curse on the podcast, but he is one badass dude. If he's available, Sergeant Major Corjero. Got to know him on deployment, but Purple Heart recipient, Bronze Heart recipient. He is somebody who's seen it and done it. And now he's a sergeant major with artillery, but he was also first sergeant for military intelligence. So he's got to see a lot of good things. He is, like I said, someone I respect. I mean, you would have had Chief Kopic here, so shout out to Chief Kopic. Also, if you want somebody who would just want to hear stories from, and type of leadership he was, he is retired Sergeant Major Van Zant. Another badass dude. I said respect him a lot. I said I know a lot of people would love to come on here, but those two I've seen it and done it, both National Guard. So if you ever want questions about why they're National Guard, not active duty, I mean he can tell you why.
Right.
And the one quote that stuck to me also, like I said, I have great leaderships in the Marine Corps and the Army. But I'm going to bring back to the Marine Corps Sergeant Major Gallegos. Who's the 24th MU Command Sergeant Major. He said one thing, it's like, I'm an infantry soldier. I'm an ASVAB waiver. I'm a drug waiver. But one thing I'm here to do is take care of you guys. I don't care if I didn't come up the same way or smart as you guys, because like I said, he was talking to us because we were S6. But it's like he did take care of us. Like I said, be about your actions, be about your words, and the NCOs, the leaders, the officers that are there to that don't promise, but they make it happen because it's what their job is and what they told you they're gonna do. Outstanding soldiers, outstanding NCOs, outstanding officers, because they know how to take care of soldiers and how to do the mission. And like I said, the National Guard has the expertise of being a soldier and being a civilian, being a family member, being a business owner, being whatever they are, student. So like I said, the mentality is there. They just have so much on their heads. There's so much that they can offer that regardless of what they do, they take care of you. That is what I got out of him. But what was the other question?
No, that was it. Piece of advice
Okay.
and call out for someone to come on. So with that, can we get a hua from the...
Hoorah.
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 So before we go, if you're liking the content,
like, comment, share,
go-
tag,
like, comment,
subscribe.
hit the notifications bell so whenever we upload another video, you get the notification. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook.
Yep.
CO National Guard on Facebook and Instagram.
We're going to toast this later, bro.
And then
Tips.
Thanks, gentlemen.
that was good.
That was an
Rah, rah, rah! Kill, kill, kill!
It is cool though.